Good Company podcast again. Rick Carley, Matt Coulter, Lars Anderson down there taking the night off. And with us, Curt Jarvis, one of the great Alabama football players of all time and one of the great airline pilots in the world. I mean, in the world. I mean, you're flying Airbus. You're flying the big dogs up there. And we're going to talk about that because you've got such a great story to tell. And a guy from Gardendale, Alabama. I mean, have you looked back at it at all?
Here's what I tell everybody. And this is the honest truth. Number one, the good Lord blessed me. Now, there's no question about it. He gave, I was fortunate enough, he gave me some athletic ability that maybe some didn't have. And then I had great parents. I've always had great coaches, Eddie Bruce.
Absolutely.
Now they'd throw him in jail now for abuse, but at the time we didn't think it was abuse, know. And then I just had some opportunities. I was fortunate enough to stay healthy and, did my thing with football. Loved it. Wished I could have played it a little bit longer. Unfortunately, I had a neck injury that ended my career. And I was just getting in there where I was getting some of that real good money. I was just getting money. Right. I was just getting money that kind of lets you live a little, live a little better. And I was wanting that life changing money, And but anyway, the thing where I was so blessed, and I try to tell young people this now, which I just turned 60 this year. Okay, the love. 60.
When you turn 67?
I'm hitting 68 in about 2 weeks. So
wow.
Well, but what I was so blessed at is I had a passion for something after football was over with. Now, certainly I was passionate as I could be about football. Loved the sport. I loved what it teaches you. I loved what it represents. I love how it brings together cultures from all over and in any kind of culture, and that you become brothers. There's a guy that was on our team at Tampa. He was, I'm finger pointing Baptist. He was Buddhist. He had, recovering alcoholic. Came from a totally different world than I did. And if he called me today, I'd go get him. I hadn't talked to him in years.
And likewise, I'll bet.
Yeah. And because anytime you go through something with men, especially men, you bond. And it doesn't matter where you're from, what your race is, you go, hey, we're in this together. And so anyway, was fortunate enough to do that. But I also had another passion. And it was, I call it turning fuel into noise. I loved airplanes. I was fascinated by them.
As a kid, did you have the model airplanes like a lot of said the model cars?
Yeah.
And
hung them from our ceiling.
With the fishing wires?
This is when you were around 11. I read your article, by the way, on AL.com. It's a great article on Curt. But you were about 11 when this passion took over?
Yeah, it was. I took one of my first flights. And I just remember, this was so long ago. They didn't have jetways. You just walked out on the tarmac. Yeah. Uh-huh. And probably very few people watching this right now was alive to know that. But I just remember walking up the steps, and I saw this guy up there with his hat on, had a double-breasted suit, and his brass was shining. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And so I remember, I didn't know what kind of plane it was at the time. Now it was a 727. They brought me in the cockpit. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing all these switches going, wow, there's a guy, he's a flight engineer. I didn't at the time know, but he's sitting sideways and he's got this big panel. Then you had the two guys up front, and just all these switches, and I'm just going, wow, what does all this do? This is crazy. And so I kind of started going, hey, I like this. So my dad was in the Air Force. But he would take me, we'd go, where the Coke building is in the Birmingham.
Absolutely.
We'd go sit up there.
Yeah.
And we'd sit in the back of his truck. And when on weekends they had the F4 Phantoms, which are loud. And I used to remember when they would taxi in these F4 Phantoms, they're fighter jets. And you had two that sit front and back. And they would taxi out with their canopies cocked open. Now, I thought it was just a cool factor. Now that I've talked to people that flown the airplane, they go, Rich, we did that. The air conditioning never worked in that airplane. They said it was burning up in there until you got in the air. But I just remember watching them taxi by, and, I can remember one guy, he kind of just had his hands out like this, taxiing, and he sees us up there and he kind of shoots me $2 worth. And I'm going, that's who I want to be right there,
That's
and
funny.
so started flying when I could afford to take lessons, fell in love with it, and remember when I took off, a guy named Chuck Brown, he owns Brown Seaplane Base. He taught Jimmy Buffett how to fly seaplanes.
Oh, okay.
Just very, in the aviation world, especially seaplanes, he's probably the premier, most knowledgeable person on seaplanes. Got a chance to meet him while I was down at Tampa, and so he said, hey, come on, we'll go fly to the seaplane base tomorrow. So I'm like, this is my rookie year at Tampa. And I go with him, I meet him. We get in the airplane. He puts me over there in the control seat, and he goes, hey, just pull back. I'm going to be with you on the controls. And went down the runway. It was just a prop plane, but I was like, I'm screaming down the runway. Anyway, and I just pulled the yoke back. When we took flight, he said, all right, now make a left turn. And so I started banking it. And I'll never forget, he's brought this to my attention. We still stay in touch. I looked over at him and I go, I want to do this for a living one day. So while I was at Tampa during the off season, I'd just go get the ratings. I'd go get a rating here, go do this, hang around. I mean, I was an airplane junkie.
Because you said from where the Bucks practiced, you could see planes behind you. The airport was right behind the practice field. Right?
Back in those days, now we have turbofan. I won't get too technical because I don't want to bore everybody. Now you have turbofan engines. And so basically, I know all my buddies who fly are going to go, you didn't explain that right at all, but I can give you the detail. But basically, you only about 30% of the power comes from the actual jet. The rest of it has a big fan in there, and it's almost like a big, huge prop. But it shrouds that hot air coming out of the back of the jet. And when you used to hear that ripping sound, it's hot air ripping against that cool air. Well, now they shroud it, and they've made the airplanes quieter. Back then, I mean, that was new technology back then. So they had pure jet engines, and we would have to stop practice because you couldn't hear. I mean, my Dubose was right there talking to me. I wouldn't hear a thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, they were like right there. So, which was fine with me. I'm like, hey, we'll stop
you're in your element.
Yeah, I'm football. I got airplanes taking off over here. I'm like, yeah, this is
pretty cool. Let's go back with you. You were always a big kid, I guess, thick.
Yeah,
fire hydrant.
A little clumsy.
While you caught the airplane bug at age 11, why didn't you catch the football bug?
Football was just like being out there hitting people.
That's kind of what it is.
I was clumsy, and I'm sure, I mean, let me tell you, the worst mistake I ever made in my life, one of them, was I'd already left, already retired. We had a get-together for Coach Eddie Bruce.
He's a legendary Gardendale coach. One of the finest people I've ever absolutely. But you're right, he could jaw a little bit.
Yeah. So somebody brings film, old 8mm film, and they're showing it at this get-together. And I'm in my 40s now, I guess, late 30s. And it just so happened somehow me and Eddie Bruce was out there, and we were watching this film of me playing in high school, just me and him. It's a great moment for me because he had gone from somebody I was scared to death of, didn't want to even looking at me, to abusing us, which wasn't abuse then, it would be now, to it was just me and him, and we were friends. And I watched that film, and I'm like, why did anybody want me?
Paul Bryant wanted you.
Well, and I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm just no intensity, no sense of purpose, no urgency. And I'm going, I was horrible. And he started laughing. He goes, no, you wasn't. He said, watch this next play. Anyway, so play ran. I pulled. We had Joe Mickles, the great running back in Gardnerville.
Yeah.
I'm pulling, and I'm leading him around the corner, and I'm hitting the guy here and hitting the guy. He goes, that's why they wanted you. He goes, they knew they could get out of you, because I was so young. I wasn't matured yet. But he goes, that speed is why they wanted you.
Wow.
Coach
Bryant called?
Well, the story of Coach Bryant was actually looking at someone else. We were playing Hueytown at the old Hueytown Stadium. I think they filmed a couple of movies there. I was a sophomore, and they came to look at Jeff Parks. Remember Jeff Parks?
Tight end.
Went to Auburn.
Played for the Oilers, didn't he?
Went to the Oilers, and we ended up picking him up at Tampa. And but he was there watching Jeff Parks play, and Coach Bryant, he would kind of just, it's amazing to me how someone like him can just slip in and not really, I mean, people knew, but he would slip in. So anyway, so my dad's telling me the story. So we're out there playing. So my dad said, yeah, he said, I'm down at the other end. I'm leaned. Because my dad would sit up at the very top of the stands. He didn't want a bunch of talking going on. He just wanted to watch the game. And he said, yeah. He said, I'm leaning up against the very top row up there. And he said, some guy comes up and says, are you Curt Jarvis's dad? And he goes, yeah. He said, Coach Bryant would like to meet you. My dad goes, yeah, whatever.
Sure. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And he goes, I didn't even pay attention to him. The guy goes, yes, sir. He said, he's down on the other end. And my dad's like, really? And so he goes down there, and my dad always talks about this. He goes, of all the people that come up to me and introduce themselves, he goes, Coach Bryant was not one of them. He said, Coach Bryant, he walked up there, and now he's seeing Coach Bryant. He's like, he walks up there, and Coach Bryant stood up and said, you Mr. Jarvis? He goes, yes, sir. He goes, I'm Paul Bryant, head coach, University of Alabama. And my dad goes,
really?
My dad goes, okay, besides the obvious, And the one thing that stood out to my dad was he goes, he asked me my permission and my mom's permission. He said, do you mind if I recruit your son?
That's the way Brian did it.
Yeah. And you don't get that now going through with my son. I mean, I know it's a whole different thing, but they go straight to the kid. They don't skim, my son, obviously he's in baseball. He's not football, but my son would be going, he's talking to this coach, whatever. I'm like, well, no one's called me, but they said, that's the way it's done now.
And then you played for Perkins. And you played for Curry.
No, didn't play for Curry.
Okay, you played for
Perkins, and then Perkins drafted me down to Tampa.
He was at the Bucks.
Yeah, and it got down there. It was good for me again, being blessed. I went to a place I was, they brought out the biggest thing about football is when you change coaches or change philosophies or change playbooks. And they handed me the playbook, and I'm like, well, I've been doing this for 4 years. So I didn't have to – I hate studying. Of course, I went into a profession you have to study all the time. But so it was something I was familiar with. Dubose was the defensive line. So when I got to Alabama, Ken Donahue, one of the most outstanding men that I've ever met, was coaching me 1 year. And then Ken Donahue leaves and goes to Tennessee or Philadelphia, and I get the news, Mike Dubose. And I'm going, whoa. He scared me to death. And I know people give him a hard time about the head job. That's whatever it is. Mike Dubose was probably one of the premier defensive coaches
I agree.
there ever was. We had a player at Tampa when I got there. When I first arrived, they knew they were going to have somebody there to help me. They weren't going to throw me in as a rookie and just hang me out to dry. So they brought in this guy. He'd been in the league 10, 15, 10, 12 years, whatever. He was all just, fingers were all gnarled up. And, he was playing when I was in sixth grade. Yeah. So And so he kind of helped me along, helped me a lot. And so when he left after that, he only had a 1-year deal. It was just to get me up to speed. And when he finally, the season was over with, they were going to cut him. And he called me. We're in the locker room. And he said, hey, I want to talk to you a little bit. So we sat down, and he said, been playing this game for a long time. He said, Mike Dubose is one of the best coaches I have ever been associated with. As far as technique, as far as, he made us understand, not that I could coach a secondary, because really I've had my butt pointed to them for 21 years. I don't know what they're doing back there, but I understood the scheme. It wasn't just, hey, you got this gap, da-da-da. He made it go, hey, here's why we're doing this. Here's how you fit. And he was an Eddie Bruce on steroids.
He was that good. A couple months ago, I read a Sunday story for AL.com, wrote one on you months ago, which was very well received. I didn't know. People went off on it. I thought,
he's a legend.
I didn't know.
No.
It was early. I was getting emails. Thank you, Mr. Carly. What a wonderful. People in tears. Anyway, so I wrote one.
Curt made country look cool.
Yeah,
and he still carries it that
right.
way. Your draw, your demeanor, and everything. I'm not surprised that you got great response.
Well,
that country kind of.
So it's funny. I get this a lot. I make the announcement now. And now that I'm the captain, I make the announcement, about us pushing back. Hey, welcome aboard Delta Flight 3300. Time en route, takeoff, touchdown. Anyway, I go over my spiel. And more times than not, a flight attendant come up here and come to the cockpit and they go, hey, these passengers want to know where you're from.
Say, I'm not from Ryan.
I try to hide it, but I can't hide it.
It's part of your charm.
Anyway, so it's just funny now. It's just, and I can tell when I'm talking to somebody, they just kind of head turned sideways like a dog watching TV. They're going.
On that note, what are some of the odd or funny different reactions you've got when they see 6'2", 280?
Well, the best story on that is I was on the 727. Got 3 pilots. We have captain, co-pilot, and we call it the plumber, but he's flight engineer. And you sit sideways, and responsibility for the panel guy, is what we call them, is I start the engines, make sure the pump's running, get everything basically as we're taxiing out. So it's my last, all I got to do, I've been on a 4-day trip. And so all I got to do is go to Nashville, come right back, I'm done. Got a few days off. And so we take off and go to Nashville. And we're getting close. I go to drop the gear. And we hear the-thunk, the-thunk. Well, it's supposed to be 3 thunks. There's only 2.
Okay.
And I look up on the panel, and I'm going, ooh, there's a light. There's a right main gear. I think it was a right main gear.
He said, ooh.
Yeah. Houston, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
So I look up there on the panel, which shows where the gear's down, and I had a green, and a red.
Whoops.
And I'm going, jeez. I go, we got a problem, guys. And so anyway, Delta does a great job. I got support, so we tell Tower, and the biggest thing you got to do with airplane, don't have a spring in your butt. When something goes wrong, don't go pushing switches. So we left everything the way it was because we're like, okay, we got one gear that's saying it's not down. So you don't want to go try to pull it up. Now you got all kinds of problems. So we just left everything it was, discontinued the approach, and we told ATC, hey, we need to go out here somewhere and hold. We got a problem. And so we do all that. Well, I'm getting checklists out, all this stuff. I called Delta Maintenance, and so it's really cool because I got on with Delta Maintenance, and then they got us on with Engineer at the time in Seattle. So I'm talking to some guys that know, we're like, hey, this is the problem. And so they're like, okay, so we go over. I have to go back and check. Now you got to understand, this plane was built in the 60s. So part of my job as an engineer is I have to do the walk around the airplane. And part of that was you had these screens up in the wheel well, these little holes with glass. And you just make sure they're free of oil and mud, whatever. I always try to do my job, take pride in my job. And so I have to go back to like row 20 or whatever it was. Have to get a lady out of her seat, get on my knees, pull the carpet up, and I pull a tube up. And I can turn that tube, and it'll show me. It's like got mirrors, and it shows you. I can look and see if the gear's down and locked. 99% of the time, you get a light, something goes on, you're going to look, and what all it was a line. If that line was straight, gear was down and locked. It's a green line. I didn't have a straight line. I had something like this.
Ooh, ouch.
And so I'm like, oh, God. So I go back up, and I'm trying to keep, because now everybody's looking at me.
I'm getting a little nervous.
Yeah. So I go up, close the door, and I literally went, guys, we got an issue. And the captain looked back, and he goes, is it not down locked? I go, no. I said, it's stuck. So we get on the horn, do this. So then we have to manually drop the gear. Try manual. I have to go back again. Now, the first time I go back, everybody's just kind of looking. Right. You come back there and go back in the pasture the second time, they start getting concerned, like grabbing you, what's going on? We're fine. Go down, look. It's not down. So now I got to go back up, and everybody, you can just feel the eyes on you there. And so now I got to keep a straight face. Flight attendants are looking at me. I go in, close the door. I go, nope. And so I put my headset on. I go, hey, guys, that gear's not down. And because it should just free fall.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I know it's a little bit of a long story, but you'll appreciate the funny story at the end. So we go, the engineer, I think it was, in Seattle goes, he's sitting there looking at the logbook because they got copies of everything. Anything's done in the airplane, it's in the logbook. So he goes, y'all the airplane to the left. He goes, they just did some sheet work or sheet metal work, whatever. And he goes, and it was right down there near that gear. So captain hits the rudder pedals and makes it yaw to dunk.
Was it a wrench or something? Or
no? So what had happened?
I don't remember. Yeah. Okay.
So what had happened was some of that sheet metal had slid back. It wasn't secured good, and it kept that gear from falling.
Mm-hmm.
So, but here's the best story. So now I got to go back the third time. I'm seeing tears now. I mean, panicking. So I go back, get out. I have to do the same because it's a process. Ma'am, do you mind if I get here, pull the carpet up, pull the thing up?
Golly.
I see what I'm looking for, green line straight across. Wow. And so, but still I'm trying to be cool. So I get up and I go and I see the flight attendant, and she's like, I'm got my back to the passengers. I'm going to the cockpit. And she's looking at me like, I go, we're good. Well, she started smiling. The whole plane erupts. And we go, we land, everything's fine. Obviously, we're not taking that airplane back. It's going to get some work done to it. So we're telling everybody bye. And they're all just, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, my gosh, y'all did a great job. Yeah. And I'm just eating it up. I'm like, yeah, just a little more. Well, I look towards the back, and I see this big, tall guy I hadn't seen in years. His name's David Jordan. He was the offensive tackle for Auburn.
I remember it.
And you got to understand, David knew me back when I wasn't necessarily living at the foot of the cross. He knew. We'd been out on South Side a few times. You understand how that goes. He's looking at me, and he comes up to me, goes, what in the and he goes, when did you become a pilot? And I see, we start laughing. He goes, man, he said, I'm sitting back there by this little old lady. She starts asking me questions, and he goes, I'm going, oh, we'll be fine. It's probably no big deal. And he said, I look up and I see your big butt come out of the cockpit. And he goes, I wanted to turn to her and go, man, we're gonna die. He goes, I used to party with him.
Here comes Jarvis.
Yeah, he goes, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw you coming out of the cockpit. And I'm going, he said, so I start running all the stuff we used to do back in college, running through my brain and going, there's no way he's in control of this.
This guy became a pilot.
Yeah,
We just butted heads, right?
Yeah,
O-line, D-line,
yeah,
boom, boom,
yeah.
boom.
He was. And
That's
so-
hilarious.
But that was the funny thing. So, we'd go play the Auburn, Alabama game when it was in Birmingham. And so you'd see people up in the stands fighting and just, going. And we'd be standing there going, hey, what are we going to make tonight? Where y'all want to go? Now, we'd go at it during the game, but now we're planning where we're
Your
gonna
social
go. And we'd go out and walk around, have a few beers, walk around, look, while we watch all these Alabama and Auburn fans fight. Because once the game was over with, we're done. Mm-hmm. And I respect him because I know what he's went through. I respect Jeff Parks. I know what he's been through. So anyway, that's how we became friends. But then you lose contact. And he hadn't seen me in 20 years.
Then he sees you.
Then he sees me coming out of the cockpit of an airplane.
That
We
is
just said, we got problems.
This guy. Well, one other great story I love that I think I'm accurate on this. When you were young, you got the bug at age 11, and you loved the roar of the engines and your dad taking you to the airport and all of a sudden, well, at some point in your life, you actually wrote a letter to Delta. Delta wrote you back and said, and I encourage you to keep, and then that you eventually got a job interview with them and your career. Tell me about that.
So,
tell us about it.
God bless my mother. Love her. She's a saint. And wish she was still here and miss her every day. But my mother had one little problem. Well, two. She couldn't cook spaghetti. I didn't realize till later that it was just ketchup on noodles. She could cook everything else, but she couldn't cook spaghetti. And the other thing, she was a pack rat. She saved everything. So I'm in my career going, I'm flying for commuter. Well, I come in one day. I said, hey, I got an interview with Delta. She goes, oh, is that going to be better? I said, yeah. I said, I get to fly the bigger airplanes. And, I'm telling her all about it. She goes, well, hang on a minute. So we go down in the basement. We're moving boxes back and, just go. And I'm like, she reaches up there and she finds this box about this big. And it had from Delta Airlines. She goes, do you remember writing a letter? Because I told my dad, I said, hey, I wouldn't mind flying. So he made me write a letter to Delta saying, hey, I'm Curt Jarvis, so-and-so years old. I would like to fly for you one day. What do I need to do to become a pilot?
You were how old, if you had to guess?
11,
11,
10,
12,
11, yeah, something like that. So I wrote the letter, sent it off. A few weeks later, man, I get this box. Had the little plastic wings in it. Mm-hmm. Had some other stuff in there. Right. But one of the things was it showed on one sheet of paper, it said qualifications to become a Delta Airlines pilot. And so I'm looking at it, I'm going, Mom, I cannot believe you kept this. I mean, why, because this was like in 1999. And I wrote that letter 76, 77, something like that. And so it just hit me, and I never come up with good ideas. Never, ever. I mean, I'm the person that said text would never work. But anyway, we say, I said, okay, I had a flip phone, and I started doing it. I'm going, nobody's going to do this. Anyway, so I thought, I better take this letter with me. And so I took it with me, and so we have to go through a bunch of tests and have to go see a psychologist. And that was the biggest thing I was worried about passing the psych exam. And so you had to, answer these 500 questions, do you like cats or dogs better? Just silly.
Like the Wonderlink?
Yeah, something like that. Just crazy questions. And so anyway, got through that so that after you pass all that, if you get through that fine, then you go interview with similar, not unlike this. I'm sitting over there, and you've got like a Delta captain, human resource, and somebody else. So they're peppering you with questions and da-da-da. So finally at the end they go, why should we hire you at Delta Airlines? I'll go, oh yeah, you just fell all into that. So I reached down, opened up my briefcase, and I pulled that sheet of paper out. And I put it down there. I said, I wrote to y'all in 1976 that I wanted to fly for Delta and asked what I needed to do. And I said, I've done everything that's on that sheet of paper right there. So the captain picks it up and looks at it. He goes, oh, this is good. He goes, I remember this guy. He goes, whoever wrote it, signed it. He's been retired for 10 years, da-da-da. And so that, gives me cold chills just thinking about it. But here's the dumb thing. We can't find that letter. I don't know what happened to it. But that's one of the ways I got there. Thank goodness my mother was
a pack rat.
Yeah.
And she finally found it, right?
No, here's the thing. She was a pack rat, but she knew where everything was.
Okay, good.
Now, we would have never found it, but she knew right where everything was. So
She walked straight to it? I mean, that's how...
well, like I said, we were moving boxes and dust, and I don't like spiders and snakes and all. I'm like, God, we're dusting stuff off. That's not it, So anyway, so that was the story on that.
It's just kind of a random question or two, because you remember us flying our helicopter in and covering your games at Gardendale?
Oh, yeah, that was
13. That was big time.
Yeah,
We came to cover you and Mickles.
Strangely enough, I have to mention this other guy. He's since passed, but who did that was Dick Parker.
I remember. He lived in Mount Olive.
Yeah, Parker
he
flew for
y'all too.
for Channel 6 when I was there.
He taught me how to fly helicopters.
Okay.
And
Parker was the guy.
oh, he was. The story about him is he quit school in the 6th grade. Now he was brilliant, but he had a pattern shop. Well, when he quit school, he started working for this pattern shop, and I don't know if I'm going to explain it right, but back then, like if you needed a bucket for a backhoe where they have to pour steel or whatever. So he made these patterns, and it was down to like 1 millimeter had to be on. And he would make these patterns and do whatever, and he would make the mold that you would pour the steel in. So he starts doing that at, I don't know, whenever he could start working. And he just had a knack for it. So he leaves the company he's working for, this guy's working for, and he starts his own business. He goes, he says, everything right, and he got a lot of money. And Dick was telling me one day, he said, he said, everybody thinks I got these helicopters that made me a millionaire. He goes, these helicopters drained me. He goes, I made my money off that pattern shop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so he said, and I just fell in love with aviation, went and took lessons when he started making a little change. And so, and of course, I was in Gardendale right there by Mount Olive. And so I started hanging out down there. And next thing you know, we're taking lessons. And, now I hadn't flown a helicopter in 30 years, but I ended up getting my commercial helicopter, which is the most fun rating I've ever gotten.
They're very difficult to fly, from what I understand, as a compared to fixed wing.
We like to say that the helicopters beat the wind into submission. There's nothing aerodynamic about a helicopter. Nothing.
It's a 3-to-1 glide ratio. That basically means, Ricky, you're dropping out of the sky.
Yeah, well, you lose engine in an airplane, you kind of look way out there to see where you can land. You lose the engine in a helicopter, you look down because that's where you're going.
Have you had any other close calls? Not to besides the landing gear strike. I mean, like a bird strike or?
Yeah, I've had some bird strikes. I've been hit by lightning a few times. I try to tell everybody, Delta pays me not to get myself in a situation that it's going to be panicky. And Delta does a great job training-wise. I just finished going to my final airplane. And the training department's outstanding there. I mean, you got some guys that know every rivet in that airplane, which I do not. But they know that thing inside and out and basically do a great job of teaching you. So having said that, when you're going through training on an airplane, I tell everybody, as soon as you come out of training, the hardest thing you can do is land an airplane with both engines. Because everything's, loosed an engine, have this problem, have this, It's just, and you're in this box, the simulator, and it moves and, but you think, you'll start sweating going, oh God, I got this problem. But you have to remember, hey, I'm just in a box, But they do a good job of, we know the airplane. And, so having said that, we're pretty well versed. Now, you can't cover every problem. Like the poor guy that landed in the Hudson. I mean, that's Sully. And everybody goes, oh, what's it like land? He's a hero. He landed in the water. And I go, that ain't the hero part of him. The hero part where he had guts enough to put it in the Hudson, because when he took off, I'd go out of that way. Used to do it a lot when I was on my previous airplane, which was exactly the airplane that was the Airbus 320, which is the plane he was flying when they hit the geese. And so it's, you got departures, stuff that you have to do, turn, whatever. And I've done that departure several times, and it's kind of funny because I always think about, okay, he hit the birds about right here. When you look out, you see Teterboro Airport. And that's enticing. It's real enticing. He'd have never made it. And so he had guts enough, wanting the landing, he had guts enough as a captain to go, the only way I'm going to save these people is I'm going to put it right there in that river.
Otherwise, it would have been tragedy.
Never would have made it. Wouldn't have made it back to LaGuardia, which LaGuardia's so short that would have been a disaster probably. But he had guts enough to go, I'm making this call. We're going in the Hudson because that's our best survival, is putting this airplane in the Hudson.
Because he was Kennedy, LaGuardia, Newark.
Kennedy's was on further east. He never would have made Kennedy. There for a while, they said, well, you could have made it to LaGuardia, but LaGuardia, I mean, that's getting in and out of there is, you got to mind your P's and Q's going in there. You don't want to go in with no engines. That's so the only option was Teterboro, and they got big runways, boy, just, look like a banana split sitting out there, going. But he said, I'll never make it there.
Could he see Teterboro from where he was?
Right, well, yeah.
So when you say it's right there.
It's right there.
But the water was before that.
Yeah, right, because he wasn't up high enough for the glide ratio and all this stuff. But he knew he wasn't high enough to make it to Teterboro, even though he could see it. And he goes, I got to go right here.
Wow.
That was the hero in him. Landing on the water, just, go down.
That's something you do in your simulator?
Well, we don't necessarily when we talk about ditching and stuff like that, but me having a seaplane background, you just come down, get your last point of reference, pitch it up 5 degrees, and just let it set down. So the airplane did the work there. But
the decision to put it
his decision, that was it. And I've thought about it. I'm like, that was a gutsy move. But you know what? He saved everybody's life.
Yeah. That picture of all of them standing on the wing is just one of the greatest photographs I've ever seen of you. All right, rapid fire some stuff here.
Oh, Lord.
All right.
Okay. Never. I think.
How many times did we go to El Paso? How many times did we get on a plane?
Twice.
We had some fun when we were out there. You know that. But what I wanted to ask,
you were a distraction.
I didn't help sometimes. You're right. But we
didn't have cell phones. We had you.
Well, there's some truth to that. But I was a lot closer to y'all's age.
Yes.
So it made it easy for us to go out. And back then, they'd let you go out and get a beer. I don't know if they even do that anymore. But I remember buying y'all a beer thinking, I just broke every NCAA rule in the world. But anyway, what I want to ask you, this is going to be strange. Do you ever watch the movie Airplane, and is that funny to you?
Oh, yeah. It's funny. Yeah, it's
good question, Matt.
It's funny. I mean, I like slapstick comedy.
Because you're talking about having to go up and down, and I think when they're dragging Captain over, great after your mouth, thinking, here he comes again.
Yeah, it's funny. No, the one movie I haven't seen, and everybody always asks me, it was the one with Denzel Washington where he lands, comes upside down. I've never seen that movie.
I haven't either. So maybe we should go see it.
What was the name of that movie?
What?
Flight. Thank you.
Flight. Yeah.
Andrew Wallace does more than just set up and run all of this stuff. He's coming up. But
all right, never seen that.
You played in an era where Alabama may have had their two finest, and God bless the passing of Leroy Jordan, by the way, but two of the finest linebackers ever. Just give me a note or two on Derek and Cornelius Bennett.
He's looking back. I appreciated Cornelius. Cornelius and I were recruited together, became friends on the recruiting trail. He's kind of quiet, but a lot of it, some people kind of think, oh, Cornelius, he's a jerk. No, he's not a jerk. He's just not a, I'm a chatty catty. Cornelius is not.
Quiet.
He's he's quiet.
He is a nice guy.
Super guy. And just probably, to me, was amazed at what he could do on the football field. Excuse me. He made the field look smaller, and it probably one of my favorite athletes to play at Alabama. No question about it. Our first or second day at Alabama, he fell out, couldn't hardly get off the field. And people were going, he ain't got any guts. No, it wasn't. He didn't have any guts. He left everything on that field. Because when Cornelius got there, excuse me, he gave everything he had. Now, after a while, you kind of learn how to throttle it back. You just try to make it through practice. But they had to carry him off the field one of those first two practices, because he didn't throttle anything back. He was there on a mission. And we kind of jumped on that. We jumped on that bandwagon and kind of followed him. And, of course, our freshman year went good. Second year, we had the bad season. But there was some people kind of compare it to now what's happened on Saturday and go, that was a whole different situation. We had some guys that were disgruntled because Perkins was trying to bring his people in. You had Coach Bryant's people still there, and there was some stuff going on. We had a couple of guys doing things they shouldn't have been doing that were supposed to be leaders. And it was so bad. I remember my mother telling me, we were getting ready to play Auburn. And she goes, honey, if you don't beat Auburn, she goes, you might not want to come home. She goes, people
Wow.
were, oh, yeah. She goes, it's bad.
Wow.
And fortunate enough to beat Auburn. It is kind of funny. People were dogging us, man. Perkins, he sucks. And the players, we beat Auburn. You thought we won that.
Was that the kick? Was that the Tiffany kick, or was the one in
next year?
Okay.
Yeah.
This is 84.
Yes, 84. That's when we went 6 and 5.
Is that the bow over, not over the top, and the full?
It was like 81 in there.
mixed
I've
together.
been hitting the head to me. Yeah, I can't remember, but we ended up winning that game. The kick the next year, I was batting 500 against Auburn. We lost the first and the last game, and the two in between that we won. And then, of course, my junior year was the kick. And everybody goes, man, and I love watching that game, just what Van did. And, in Van, there's no question, Van was just so cool, so calm, went out there and made the kick. But what people forget is Greg Richardson.
He drug Bivens out of bounds.
If he hadn't have done that, it was over with.
Absolutely.
So, and people forget about that. And so
They forget Shula going, what a great.
oh, gosh,
What he sacked on the first play, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. And we ran the reverse, and he hit Benji rolling.
True enough, Al Bell.
Yeah, and then, I know Benji a little bit. We know Shula got a block on him, and to this day, when I talk to Mike, or we'll be talking about that game, he goes, you forgot about that block I made, made on Benji rolling. And,
Yes.
And so, he, there were so many things that came together that just happened. But Greg Richardson, in my opinion, is the key to that whole drive, because he don't get out of bounds, we're done.
You're done. And it's a real quick story about Cornelius. My dad lived in Buffalo for years, huge Bills fans, the early 90s when the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Cornelius been at the big star of the Bills.
Yeah.
And I was working down here. I'd been here for a couple of years, got to know Biscuit a little bit, and we were at a golf tournament or something. I said, hey, Cornelius, can you call my dad? Now, this was later. This was when cell phones came along. So I didn't have a cell phone in 91, I think. Probably 95 I had a cell phone. Anyway, a couple of years later, after the Super Bowl years. Can you call my dad and surprise him? He said, yeah. So he takes it. I gave him my number, and he said, Mr. Carley, My dad's like 81 then or something, living in Buffalo, I don't know what he's doing, sitting there on the couch. This is Cornelius Bennett of the Buffalo Bills. I just thought I'd say hi. My dad just about died and went to heaven. He could. So anyway, that's a short story. What kind of guy Biscuit?
He is great. Like I said, sometimes I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap because he's somewhat shy. But just like my son, Cooper, Cooper was 4 or 5 years old when we went and played the golf tournament. And, I've been telling him about Biscuit, and he's seen the play, the sack, and, and I just tell him, I said, Cornelius is my favorite athlete, to play at Alabama, and da-da-da. So, built him up, and I called him Biscuit. And so we played into the golf tournament, and so I go, come on, I'll introduce you to Cornelius. And so we go up there, and my son, he's like, just wide-eyed. And Cornelius goes, come on, you riding with me. Cornelius takes Cooper. I don't see him the rest of the day.
Cool.
And so ever since then, Cooper he's a Cornelius Bennett fan. And he spent time with, he didn't have to do that. Everybody's all over Cornelius, but he took time.
He did that.
To go give me Cooper. He's with me.
That sounds like, were you with Bama for Derek's 7-sack game?
No,
okay.
That was after.
That was after.
You got to remember now, when we knew Derek was going to be good, but he still was a rookie.
Yeah, remember he messed up against Ohio State? It's a rookie question.
What happened?
He got called for 2 pass interference penalties.
Oh, no.
It was against Ohio State.
Yes. It was a kickoff classic.
85 or?
State to have a shot.
No, it was 86.
86, okay.
Yeah.
We almost thought, now I don't want to say, because God rest his soul, I love Derek. One of the funniest guys I've ever been around in my life. Just his humor. I was sitting at a red light right there near the quad. I was going to class or something. Derek, his father was a fighter pilot. Was lost in Vietnam.
Right, Air Force,
And so, Derek was driving around in a BMW. And everybody goes, but the university, but no, he had a little something. They had some money for him because of his father. But I remember sitting in a red light, and I had my old red and white pickup truck, and he knew what it looked like. And he pulls up beside me, and he did this on purpose. And I just look over there. He's got, remember those phones that you hooked them into your house, but if you just lay them down, they hang up. They don't have a receiver or anything. You just laid the phone down flat, and it hung up. And anyway, so I just look over there. Well, he's got this cord hanging out the window of this BMW, and he's just talking on that phone, and he goes, taking care of business. And I'm just like, awesome. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. But obviously, super.
He was a great guy.
Oh, yeah, super guy. Loved him to death. He was always, one thing I remember about Derek, he always had time to talk to you.
He did.
Yes.
Years ago, when I was at Channel 6, I don't know when it was, 89, 90, right when I got there. I came into work. We go into work for about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon to do our 6 and 10 or whatever. And so I went in and I walked in the sports office, and Derek Thomas was sitting in my chair. Well, his PR guy was taking him around to the stations, and he had beat me into work. And he was so nice. And he spent about a half hour there and talking. But real quick, as we wind it down, I just want to talk about airlines today. And our country is more divided than ever. Yeah. People are cranky than ever. People are, and by the way, don't take American through Washington, D.C. I'm just saying. Okay. No, but I'm just saying. But,
by the way, you have been a solid 30, 40-minute commercial for Delta.
You are. I don't know what you're making, Kurt, but you need to get a raise. Yeah. But anyway, between people trying to get connections and cranky people, and I saw something on video the other day where the lady was trying to smack a Delta, or not a Delta, an airline aide, what airline it was. Where does airlines stand today? And are travelers more cranky, less cranky?
No, by far they're more cranky. But it's society.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's we're not patient anymore. Now, the thing about it, and I have said this before, and this, to a certain degree, it's true, to a certain degree, it's not. But I tell everybody this: the airline business is the only airline business I know that treats the customer like crap and charges a premium for it and makes money. And and what happens is you got there's so many moving parts, and to get an airplane pushed off the gate, and you've got people way behind the scenes, bags and dispatchers, and you got weather, and it's just there's so many variables that you can't control that and so we get delayed and people get upset. We want to go just as bad as y'all do, because the last thing I want to do is sit up there in that cockpit for an hour waiting on some whatever. And so air travel is so popular now, and so when they plan on how many airplanes can take off and land in Atlanta, they do it on a clear day, no weather, everything's going perfect. So you pack all these airplanes in, you got them coming from all over, just here and there. Well, now have you a big thunderstorm sitting up here. Well, now you've reduced the airspace that you had, and I'm just throwing out numbers, that you had planned to have 500 airplanes in this airspace. Now you've lost that. So these airplanes have to go somewhere, get in another section of airspace to get into Atlanta. And now you start getting delays, and you delay an airplane in the morning, it may take that airplane the next day to get caught up where it's supposed to be and the time it's supposed to be there. Wow. And just you have a mechanical. One thing I will say, and again, Delta, I've been there, going on 27 years. If I don't want an airplane, if there's something that I'm not comfortable with, all I got to do is call the dispatcher and say, I'm not taking this airplane.
Really?
Never. They don't say anything.
Never question. Have you done this?
Yeah, we've had a couple times we're going, hey, we're not sure about this.
Something doesn't feel right.
We're just not liking how this lines up. The one thing I can say about Delta and there's lots that people complain about on any airline. Our mechanics are outstanding. You need something done, they are Johnny on the spot. And Delta backs us. Now, I can't take advantage of that. I can't go, 2 or 3 times in a month going, I'm not taking this airplane. Now they're going to call me on the carpet. But if there's something that I don't like, or I'm just like, hey, this we've got to go here, and we've deferred this generator, and because we've got an extra one in APU, but I'm like, we've got this weather, and I don't want to take this airplane. Find me another airplane.
Oh,
like, okay.
Well, that's pretty cool. Last summer, my wife and I and my daughter went to visit my son. He's in the Peace Corps. He's in Mongolia. So we flew from Atlanta to Istanbul, and Istanbul to Ulaanbaatar. So 12 hours each were in coach, because they wanted 4,000 more per ticket for business class or whatever. So we sucked it up. Long story short, we took, Turkish Airlines? I guess that's what we took. Okay. And I'll tell you, it was like 1975. The stewardesses with their hats, and they come up and they march on, and they're giving you 3 meals and wine and everything. No, I'm flying here on any event. I'm getting a Biscoff cookie. Yeah. So my question is, what happened to all that great food that they used to serve?
Well, my understanding, and I'm not a businessman in the airline, but my understanding is when they had deregulation back in 78 or whatever, then it's all about the profit.
Yeah.
You got to make a profit. Okay. And I totally get it. So, yeah, we've kind of, the Biscoff is good when you eat 1, 2's okay. That third one I can't get down.
And they don't do peanuts anymore because of the allergies.
Allergies, yeah. I used to love the peanuts. Every once in a while we get almonds. Yeah. So we would have that, but yeah, it's just, it's all about making a profit, fuel's up and down, and, it's just.
Well, your patience is to be applauded. I love about it happens to me all the time. We just take off, say I'm taking off from D.C., the pilot. Welcome to whatever airlines. And ladies and gentlemen, if you look off the left side of your plane, you see a beautiful shot of the Washington Monument and the Capitol building. Well, I'm on the right side. Yeah. Or what's this guy telling me? You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys drive me nuts because I'm always on the.
We try to point stuff out, but before we go, so I'm a little disappointed. I didn't get to meet James Spann. And now let me say this:
it's a weather night.
We can call him.
No, we don't. But I'm gonna tell you this.
That wouldn't do anything.
But let me tell you this story. I've got to tell this story.
All right.
James Spann would have been the second most famous person that I ever met.
Really?
Yeah.
And who is the first?
So I'm going to tell you the story.
Okay.
Do we have time for this?
Yeah, do good, but I may get James and I'll put him on speaker. Okay.
Okay.
But go ahead and start, and then.
Okay. Well, he's got to be here.
Oh, okay. Hold on. See if he answers. It is a good time for him.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was like, not that y'all aren't famous.
Call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message.
Leave him a message.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will.
No, let Curt.
So anyway, so this is what I was excited about because I'm like, he's the second most famous, and I knew if he was going to be here, he's going to go, well, who's first? And I'm like, well, I got a great story on that. So I'm at Tampa, and even when we played at home, we stayed in the same hotel. I had the same room, had the same roommate, and we had to be there basically at the same time because Perkins was real big on not changing things up. So the problem you have is, and all the people in Tampa knew where we stayed because you can't leave a bunch of 20-year-olds got a little money in their pocket and let them stay at home and think they're going to be at the game on time. That's just not going to happen. So that's why they put us up in this hotel the night before the game, even at home. So the problem with it is I tried to give everybody that wanted an autograph. I made sure especially kids, because I'd been blessed to meet some really good people and I wanted to pass it on. So, but the problem is when you're going to the hotel, everybody knew we're staying there, so you got a bunch of fans there. They had it roped off. We walk in, you go to the desk, they give you the key to the same room I've done, all year. Then they got it roped off. You go to the elevator. They've shut one elevator down, and it's just for us. We use the top 2 floors for the team. And so the autograph situation, you have to be careful. I tried to stay off my feet the day before the game. I really probably went overboard of just staying off my feet. So the last thing I wanted to do was get into the hotel, and you look a kid in the eye, and he holds that paper up, and you don't sign it, you're a dog. But once you sign that one, then everybody else is coming, and so I basically just kept my head down. I'd high five them all stuff, but you don't make eye contact. You cannot make eye contact because you see a little kid and he's doing
Here comes the guilt.
Yeah. And so my thing was keep your head down. I went to the desk, got my key, went up to the room. After the game, I didn't care if I was hurt. I'd stay an hour. If somebody wanted my autograph, it was worth me waiting on, give it to them. So it's one particular game we're playing. Actually, I remember who we were playing. We're playing the Minnesota Vikings at home. Everything's going good. Walk in, keep my head down, high-fiving. The ropes are out. Nobody's supposed to be in the ropes but the players, the coaches. Go up to the counter. They knew who I was. Mr. Jarvis, we can't find your key to your room. This was back when you had actual keys. We don't have cards anymore. Or didn't have cards then. So I'm sitting there. Now, I'm looking straight back. I'm not, because I can feel people all over rooting and hollering and having a big time. And I'm going, just keep looking forward. So I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, someone walks up beside me. And I don't recognize this voice. And he's going, so what's going on? And I ain't looking at him. Number one, I'm going, why is this guy inside the rope and security's not doing anything? And this guy's trying to talk to me. And I know he ain't a player because he's asking me, what's going on, da-da-da. So I ain't giving him nothing. I'm just answering his questions, bothered the fact that this guy's inside the rope and he's not supposed to be inside the rope. He's like, I said, a football game. Oh, who's playing? I'm going, God, who is this guy? And I'm not turning. I'm not doing anything. I'm going, Bucks are playing the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, NFL game. That's great, And so finally I'm going, please get my key and let me get out of here because this guy's just wanting to make conversation and I'm not giving him nothing. I'm being almost rude. So finally that, Mr. Jarvis, we found your key. I'm like, thank you. Yeah. take the key. I drop my bags. I just reach down, get my bag, and I just want to see who this guy is. So I turn and look, and I go, Fonzie. He goes, Henry Winkler, puts his hand out, shakes my hand. Now, he's not but about that tall.
That's awesome.
And so, it gets better. So I'm gonna try to speed it up. It's longer. So I have Fonzie standing right beside me. He's the guy inside the rope. And I'm just, what? And I'm like, I go, Fonzie, and he goes, Henry Winkler, how you doing? Shakes my hand. We have this conversation, and what was so great about him, he's so gracious. We didn't talk about Fonzie. He wanted to know about my family.
Yeah.
And we talked about my accent. Everybody makes fun. Oh, where are you from? Texas? He was so classy, and he goes, I detect an accent. I said, yes, I'm from Alabama. Oh, did you play for the Great Bear Bryant? I said, no. I said, I played at Alabama. I said, but he was gone. He was asking about my family. He wanted to know about my sister. He wanted to know everything was about me, and he was interested. So, and so we talk a little bit, and I tell him, I go, if you want to come to the game tomorrow, I said, I'll get you in a box. He goes, oh, Curt, you're so gracious. No, he said, I'm here. We're scouting a place to do a film. He goes, I'm leaving in the morning. And he said, but thank you so much. He said, if I come back in town, I said, look, you come back in town. I said, you call the Bucks, and I said, they'll get in touch. And I said, we'll go eat at Burns Steakhouse. Because we're having, we got a rapport. Me and Fonzie
going to Burns
are talking. Yeah. He's like, so anyway, he goes, Curt, again, you're so gracious. I'm going to hold you to that. He goes, I'd love to go. Because he was asking me about where to eat. And I said, Burns Steakhouse, da-da-da. So I go up to my room, and this is before cell phones. Well, I'm calling everybody on this, calling them collects. Hey, Mom, you won't believe who I talked to, and da-da-da-da-da. Telling her about that. Call a couple of buddies. They're like, no kidding. I'm like, yeah, man. So we're talking da-da-da. Well, now it's time for the meeting. So if we have meetings the night before the game, everybody comes out about the same time. So you know how locker rooms are. Somebody gets something on you, they would just eat you up with it. So you didn't let anybody know something bothered you. So we're waiting to, a group of us waiting to get on the elevator to go down to go to the meetings. I'm like, guys, Henry Winkler, the Fonzie, staying in this hotel. And I go, we may go to dinner. Well, when I said that, man, those guys were, Jarvis, he ain't going out with your country. And yeah, he ain't got nothing. I'm telling you guys, we're friends now. I go, he's going to call me. They are ripping me a new one riding down the elevator. So we get off the elevator. We go. And you know how hotels, they have all these meeting rooms, and they can kind of partition them off. Well, we walk by, and I just look inside the room, and I see Henry Winkler at the head of the table, and he's talking to people. And I'm still with the same group of guys that have been just ripping me. Giving me down the road. We pass by. Next thing I hear, hey, Curt. Awesome.
That's
I
awesome.
stop. They stop. Here comes Henry Winkler. Curt, please forgive me. He puts his hand out. I forgot to wish you good luck. He goes, enjoyed our conversation. So now I'm just playing like, hey, it ain't Mr. Winkler anymore. Fonzie, I'm like, well, Henry, I appreciate that. You didn't have to do that. And then he goes, when I come back in town, me and you're going to Burns Steakhouse. It's on me. And so I said, Henry, that's great. I said, good talking to you, da-da-da. And he goes back in, and I turn around, and I go, now it would be
that is awesome.
Now female dogs, I'm not going to say what it is. And they're standing there looking at me going, what the heck, And he couldn't have happened in
perfect time.
Perfect timing.
Perfect time.
And I just shoved it in their face.
That's awesome. That's
now,
awesome.
The other question I get when I tell this story, they go, did he ever call you? And I go, no, he didn't call me.
Well, as we wrap up, I have to ask you a question. I think you probably get it daily.
Okay.
Can you get me tickets?
No. Well, if we keep playing like we're playing, you're going to give you. And it's, that's the whole.
Airline tickets.
Oh, airline. Oh, I thought you were talking about football tickets. I was thinking football.
Nah.
Everybody asked me that, and I know I can't. My family can fly for free. I know, but yeah, I mean, if I could, I'd go. Hey, all my buddies, y'all come on.
Yeah.
We're gonna
go see Henry Winkler.
Yeah, we'll go get Henry on here and we'll go. So, but anyway, I get asked that. The biggest thing people ask me is, hey, I had this ticket and they did this, and I have to tell everybody, I'm like, when I'm standing there and I see that gate agent typing away, I have no idea what they're doing. I can look at their screen. I don't know anything that goes on until I walk on that airplane. I don't know how. I don't know why they bump some. I don't know the secret code.
Well, my final question is, you fly such a big plane. Isn't the Airbus the biggest passenger plane in the world? Or?
No, now Airbus makes the biggest. It's the 380. I fly the 350.
Which seats? How many?
About 300.
Okay, so that's a big plane.
Fancy is the word you used in your life.
And it's. But I tell you what, it's kind of scary because some of the stuff I see this airplane do, I'm like, hey, they ain't gonna need us here in a few years. This thing
really, it's that monitor.
Yeah.
My question was, and you fly internationally, so you're all over the world. You're a big dog here flying. My question is do you feel any pressure of having, and not to be overly dramatic, but I guess I will be, the lives of 355 passengers behind?
I'm gonna say this. And this is going to sound selfish, but it's just the way it is. Nobody on that airplane loves themselves more than that pilot.
Good answer.
And so you're going to be safe just on the fact if something goes wrong, we're going to be the first to hit. So
you want to get back to the lake.
The only pressure I got is making sure I get there and I get back.
Because you're up front.
Yeah, I'm up there in the thing. So it's not because if I got into a single engine airplane, it's just me. I'm going to take the same care as I do having 300 souls on me.
I'm glad to know you're up there.
Yeah, well, Curt, thanks. That was a lot of fun.
You're a great storyteller. I appreciate you.
You are.
About that, but tell James Spann I'm disappointed.
Okay. We're going to work something out.
He usually calls back. He has a weather night going out.
Yeah,
that's why he's.
I'm expecting maybe a dinner to Chuck's, something like that from James Spann. I'm
Chuck's Fish.
Yeah,
I think James eats at the Waffle House every day.
Well, I'll go to the Waffle House with him.
So we'll all go.
If you go to Chuck's, I love sushi.
They do. They are good.
And it's the donkey on crack. It's not on the menu. It's a secret menu. So I have insiders out there.
Donkey on crack
is the sushi roll. Get it.
Chuck's.
It'll change your life.
Up on the hill on 280.
Yeah, well, or the one in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
But it's not on the menu. But I know people that knows things.
It's great to have you here, man.
Thank you.
Great job as always, man. Great to catch up.
I had a great time. We hope that all of your seat backs are in the upright and locked position.
Very good.
Take care.
Thank you. Had a good time.